Welcome to the Preliminary Cost Estimating Tool Training Series. In this segment, we'll be taking a look at the guide rail section. Okay, so first off, if you want to know how we got to this point, you can check out our previous training videos, starting out with the general overview, all the way up to curb and sidewalk. Now we're going to take a look at the guide rail and median barrier section. First thing we got to do is change our toggle here to yes to open up our inputs for guide rail. So you can see we have a new guide rail and barrier here. If you watched our curb and sidewalk segment, this works very similarly to that. First thing, we've got to grab a road name here. If you don't have a road name, or if you're wondering how those get populated, if we scroll up to the pavement section, we have our road names that we input in the roadway section here, and that is what is being populated down here. So we're going to select NY123 for this. Length of roadway calculated from pavement sections. So this comes also from the pavement section. And you'll see NY123 here, one of our pavement sections. We have a 5,000 foot length, which corresponds to the length after we select NY123. If we had multiple segments above, those would be summed here to give you a total for the entire roadway. Let's move on to type. So you have cable, box beam, concrete barrier, corrugated beam, weak post corrugated, and HPBO. We're going to pick box beam for this example. You can pick any of them. Number of runs. So this is used to calculate how many end sections there are. Typically, in a run, you'll have one end piece and one either like a type 1 or an energy absorbing end terminal, and this will calculate one of each of those per run. So let's say we have 6 runs of guide rail here. We can do either a percentage of the overall length from up here, or we can enter in a length manually. So percent on right, let's say half of it has guide rail, and then maybe on the left, maybe we only have very short segment to protect something very specific. We'll throw in 200 feet there. Median, we'll take the same length and apply it to median barrier item or a median guide rail item. So in this case it would be box beam median, but we'll leave that out for now and just stick with the right and left. If we want to add a segment here, we can click the plus button and it will give us another section here that we can use. Maybe we have some guide rail on Main Street also. Just go with 2 runs there. Maybe 100 feet on each side. Remove and reset guide rail and barrier. We'll come up with the appropriate items for removals and removing and resetting them. You have the same selection for type. You have to put in a manual length. We're assuming since they're existing, it should be quick enough to get an actual length here, so you don't have that percentage option. You can pick yes or no for each of these. Let's just say we've got a little bit of both of these. We'll call it 1,000 feet each, just so we can see the items when we go to our worksheet tab. User-defined non-itemized cost, similar to other sections. We have a lump sum cost for scopes of work that you want included in a particular section, but may not be included in the itemized calculations. So we'll go ahead and type in additional scope here, $50,000. Can always add and remove these with our buttons here. So now we have our lump sum total from the user-defined non-itemized costs and our itemized subtotal from the guide rail worksheet. So let's head over there and take a look at what our cover sheet data entry inputs did back here. So I kept everything in box beam just to simplify going over the backup here. So as you can see, we have regular guide rail on shop bent, so it assumes 90% of regular guide rail and 10% shop bent right off the bat. You can always override your quantities over here if you have actual lengths for each of those. We also have the item numbers pre-populated here. You can always go ahead and override those if you're using something different for an item number. As you can see, it calculated type 1 end assembly and an end piece for each of those 8 runs that we filled out. Item numbers corresponding over there. Again, you can override the quantity. Maybe you don't want type 1s, you want type 3s. You can very easily put that quantity into your end assembly type 3 row. And then you can see our remove and dispose, remove and store, and reset items are all populated from those couple inputs on the cover sheet, on the data entry sheet. And all of these sections for all of your different types of guide rail operate in a similar fashion. Calculates your quantity, you're allowed to override it. Pre-populated item number that you can override as well. Also by default, we have a vegetation control strip, which will take 3-inch thickness, 2.25 feet wide for the entire length of your guide rail sections. So you can come in here, if you don't want a vegetation control strip, you can toggle this to no. We're going to leave it on yes for our example here. If you want to use a different item number for your vegetation control strip, you can do so with your override item number. If you want to put a manual area in, you can do that as well. Additional items, user-defined items and quantities. We can put any item number, any quantity in here we want. Similar to other sections, you just put your item number in here, your quantity here, and it will add it to your guide rail item list. So as we move down, we can see we have our list populated with items and quantities from above. Unit prices are automatically generated, and we end up with a guide rail total. This is the itemized total that's referenced back on our data entry tab. Corresponds to this cell right here, guide rail itemized subtotal, and then we end up with our guide rail total. And that concludes the guide rail section segment of the Preliminary Cost Estimating Tool training series. For additional preliminary cost estimating tool training, be sure to check out our other videos. Thanks for watching.